welcome back to Magic TV. My name's Craig. It is 9 o'clock, which means it's time for a Talk Magic. And I am here with an amazing magician. I've known this guy for a very long time. One of the pioneers in the UK of Rubik's Cube magic. He was doing Rubik's Cube magic before Rubik's Cube magic was cool. And he's still doing so much amazing stuff with it. But there's so much more to hit this person than just Rubik's Cubes. It is the one and only Kev G. How you doing, Kev? You all right, mate?
Yeah, thanks for that introduction. I'm really good. Just living life at the moment, working on new projects and stuff. It's just I feel really excited by the stuff that I'm doing at the moment. So
this is good, and you know what? I'm so glad that you found time to come on the channel because you are a busy guy. And we'll talk about this a little bit later on, but you are ridiculously busy. While most performers have kind of spent the whole of lockdown doing nothing, you've done exactly the opposite, and you're more busy than ever before with projects and this and that and the other. So thank you for finding time to come on the channel. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, no worries. Thanks for having me on.
No problem. And there's a lot that I want to talk to you about, my friend. I'm willing to bet that a lot of people that are watching this don't know who you are. And I want people to know exactly who you are because you are so damn clever and an amazing creator. And like I said before in the intro, and I meant it, you changed the game when it came to Rubik's Cubes. And we'll get to that. We'll get to cube cards down the line. But I mean, you literally changed the game and then some. But I want to start at the very beginning because, as I say, there's people that are watching this that might not know you. So let's start at the very beginning. When did you get into magic, Kev? How did that whole origin story come about?
Yeah, do you know what? And the more I get asked this a few times, and every single time I kind of remember something else, which I'm thinking, oh, actually, like that had a part to play as well. So, I mean, like everyone, I had a Paul Daniels magic set, but I don't think that's where I got the real spark. And at first, when I was thinking back, I was like, oh, no, I didn't have that. But then when I saw photos and saw like the back designs of the cards, I was like, oh, I remember that. So I had that stuff, right? But really, I think it was not until I was about 17, 18, something like that. So okay. I'd left secondary school, I was in college, and maybe it was that sort of transition towards university. And this was at a time when on TV there was David Blaine, Derren Brown had just come out. But also, as a student, I was staying up pretty late at night, and there'd be all of the reruns of Monkey Magic with like Ali Cook and Pete Furman and Jonathan Goodwin and stuff in, which I absolutely adored. And there was the show that David Penn did, Freaky. Was it called Freaky?
And Astounding Celebrities, and
yeah,
you had Stop the White Rabbit as well, didn't you?
Yeah, so stuff like that, and I was just kind of like consuming all this, absolutely loving it. And I think then I was like, oh, I want to learn more about this stuff, and seeing the stuff David Blaine did as well. And I'm like, oh, it's amazing. And then kind of like going on that journey to find out a little bit more. And at this point in time, the internet was kind of in its infancy, really. There was not much stuff about, so I had to go to the library and see what I could find there. And then the sort of stuff started to become available on the internet. And I remember the first magic shop website I was looking at was magictricks.co.uk, which, I'm sure you type in magic tricks into Google and bam, that was there. So I started getting bits and bobs off there, and just a lot of the stuff that you probably buy if you're getting into magic. So like invisible thread and coin gas and other little bits and bobs. And then sort of progressing to spending a little bit more money. And I can remember spending, I don't know, I think I spent £50. At this time I was a student, didn't have that much money. I spent £50, and it was on Alex Laredo. I think that's his name. I think he's a Canadian magician. He was putting a lot of stuff out through Magic Tricks, and it was called Elevator, which was a sort of levitation thing. I don't know if you remember this.
I remember that, yeah.
Yeah, and I remember this is the first time where I got something, opened the box, and I was like, what is this? And because I looked at the trailer, and it looked like to me like just like elevated, and he had like lights going under his feet, and I was like, what? How is this possible? So in my head, I'm thinking it must be this like mechanism, like it's transparent so people can't see it, and it holds your weight. So it just kind of like must be sort of like a transformer thing that lifts you up your weight on one foot. And I'm thinking this is going to be incredible. And then you come to the post and you get through and you're like, okay, all right. Yeah, maybe I'm not going to use that. I mean, maybe it was good in certain situations, but I think that's the first time I was kind of like, you know, you put loads of money on the table and then you're like, oh, is that all it is?
Yeah.
So I went through that kind of journey, but at the same time, I think there was a few other things at play as well. So I was dating a girl who lived on a farm, okay, and I was with her for a number of years, but the rest of her family were very much farm orientated. She wasn't so much, but they were farm orientated. So it was, and they'd have, as a farming family, they have these like massive events. So it's the birthday party, they've got this huge marquee in the back garden, thousands of people and stuff. And it was kind of like, I think for me, it was having a little bit of knowledge of magic. It allowed me to kind of like introduce myself, but also start conversations and stuff, because I think like I wasn't that fussed about like I like rugby, but I'm not that into it, which is kind of seemed to be the sort of sport of choice, and all the other stuff was kind of like all farmy sort of conversation. So it was really difficult for me to find common ground.
Yeah.
So that really, I think that kind of then spurred me on to like learn other stuff, and then I was kind of like, that was my thing then, you know, I was doing magic stuff. And a friend of mine did a trick where he had, I think it was, I can't remember if it was a pencil he used or if it was a cigarette, but you know, the vanishing, at this time, you know, this was like maybe like early 2000s. And he showed me this trick where he got, I can't remember if it was a pencil or a cigarette, but it's a cigarette, put it in his fist and gone. And that blew, do you know what, that blew me away. And when I was like, I begged him like how is this done? He showed me, and then I was settled with that for ages. And everywhere I'd go, like if someone was smoking, perfect. So it was like this kind of like impromptu thing. I could go bang and like gone, and it was like a lit cigarette, and it was just people were just blown away by it. And I think like everyone, let's imagine when you're getting these reactions where you're just astounding people and they just can't comprehend what's just happened. Or like, where's it gone? It was lit. It's a light. Do you know what I mean? So, and I just love that. I just loved being able to create those moments for people. But as I said, at the same time, like I think all magicians that start to get into it, you're getting that sort of like kind of like admiration, that it makes you feel good, doesn't it? You're feeling good about yourself if you're making other people feel good and have fun and stuff. So. Yeah, I think that was at play as well, and then it just kind of snowballed from then. And I joined Leamington and Warwick Magic Society. This is
a great magic society, by the way, for people who haven't heard of it. I mean,
yeah,
I've travelled around the country looking at different magic societies, and Leamington, it just does it all right. It really does. It's great. It's a great society.
Yeah, they're fantastic, and I think we're maybe like one of the only clubs that maybe some people might disagree and say, oh, maybe you should have more of a balance, but we pretty much have a lecturer every single meeting. So we meet every other week and we've got a lecturer. It's not like a club night, and maybe we should have some more club nights so we get to kind of have time to share more magic and have those discussions. But you know, you can't knock them for putting on the program that they do every year. It's really good. But again, like, I couldn't get to that stage until I didn't even know that they existed, right? So before that, I didn't even know there was such thing as these. I heard of the Magic Circle, but I didn't know there was like these local clubs you could find out about. And I think it wasn't until I'd gone through uni and I could drive, and then I thought, hey, like there must be some other people that I can sort of share stuff with and talk to magic, because it's a quite an isolating thing, I think, back then, because you don't want to be you don't want to tell everybody your secrets, because then it's not special, is it? So that was really nice then to get that opportunity to speak to other magicians and to to sort of develop my performing skills and stuff as well, because I then got to, I then sort of, it sort of clicked. Oh, do you know what? I'm actually from what other people do. I'm actually at a stage where, do you know what? I can go out and do these gigs at weddings or parties or events, because I speak to other musicians, they're doing it. I'm like, oh, hold on a minute, like I'm good enough to do that. So then that kind of made me think, oh, I should be doing this. So that's when I started to then do gigs at events.
Wow. So that's when you went semi-professional.
Yeah.
And we'll continue with that story in a minute. I want to backtrack with a couple of things that you've spoken about there. So I suppose the first question I've got for you is, what advice would you give somebody that's getting into magic? Because you talked about how, you know, it's an isolating experience and it was, you know, very difficult at first. And you do find that. What advice would you give a magician who's maybe new into magic, that's watching this interview, that wants to take it further and doesn't really know how to go around that and what to do?
Sure. I think definitely finding out who your local magic club is and getting in touch with those, and then you've got people you can actually speak to and discuss, and they're going to help you, because there's so many mistakes, or you know, like I said, you're spending money on stuff that actually, hold on, this isn't going to help me. It looks fantastic in the trailer and it looks mind-blowing, but when in reality it's actually probably wasted money, because you need to be focusing on the basic building blocks first before you start diving in with that kind of stuff. So I definitely say to find a local magic club. Obviously there's stuff online now, there's like magic forums and stuff and groups, but sometimes I don't know if people on those or reply give the most constructive feedback. And there's obviously some magicians who are someone might ask a question which might not be stupid in their head, but then they're going to get this kind of response that makes them feel like that. And I think if you're actually speaking to a real person face to face, it's they're going to actually really try and help you and give you some good advice, and you're not going to end up down a path where actually you've got to undo all of the things that you've done wrong and start again. Obviously now, as well as online magic shops where you can get stuff, there's YouTube and you can see stuff on there, and I know you've spoken a lot about magicians and doing stuff on YouTube, and there is some really useful stuff that you can get, and tips and hints from on YouTube. But again, on the flip side, there's these and most of them are youngsters themselves who have seen a trick and they then try and recreate or even teach it, and they just don't teach it the way it should be taught. And then that's how you kind of like pick up bad habits. Or, you know, you watch someone do it badly and then you're going to go and do it badly, because at that stage you're just kind of like going to be mimicking, copying what they've been doing.
But it's even worse than that, in my opinion, because it's a little bit like Chinese whispers. So with Chinese whispers, you know, you whisper something to somebody, that person will whisper it to somebody else, that person will whisper it to somebody else. And by the time you've got through 10 people, it's a completely different thing. Well, that's the same with teaching on YouTube. The person who's trying to teach it probably isn't qualified to teach it, but then that person will learn it and then try and teach it and probably do it worse than the first person. And you end up with some 6-year-old that's fumbling through the cards, you know, and it's just, someone's going to find that video. So it is damaging in many ways. I totally agree with you.
Yeah. So that's the advice I'd give, really. Just find someone who you can trust, that's going to maybe sort of act as a bit of a mentor, or someone you can bounce ideas off or ask questions or ask advice. And that's going to be your best starting point, I think.
Okay. That's really good advice. I've got another question for you that I think you're uniquely qualified to answer. And it's a question that we get a lot on Magic TV, and I've tried to answer it myself on various different Q&As, but I think it'd be really good to hear from you as well. What you said there was, you talked about how you felt that the time was right to start doing gigs and start to do this professionally. I've got two questions. The first question is, how do you know you're ready? Because there's so many magicians that will send me a message going, when am I ready? When am I ready? I don't feel like I'm ready, but I look at other magicians and they look like they're doing it. I want to do it, but I'm nervous and blah, 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 blah. So when do you know you're ready? And also, and I hope you don't mind me saying this,
Yeah.
you never went full-time as a magician, did you? I mean, you've always been part-time, which is great. And I've actually talked about how some of the best magicians that I know are either part-time or amateurs. Look at Guy Hollingsworth, look at John Bannon, look at John Gustafaro, Ryan Schultz, the list goes on and on and on. My second part to this question is, what made you decide to not do it full-time? Because you are good enough. You are more than good enough. You are better than most full-time magicians that I know. And I know that you've got a very keen business sense as well. And if you wanted to, you could make it work for yourself full-time. So I suppose it's, because I think that information would be helpful to viewers as well, that are trying to decide whether to go full-time, part-time, they want to become a magician, what route do they go down? So yeah, two parts to the question. How do you know when you're ready? And any advice on whether people should go part-time and full-time, and what made you decide not to be full-time? So there's a lot of questions there, Kev. Sorry about that.
Sure, no, that's fine. Yeah, I think you just kind of, I kind of just felt like I was ready. Do you know, I had a bank of effects, so I wasn't just, you know, I hadn't just learned some card stuff. So there was a range of things that I'd learned. So I'd made sure that I hadn't kind of like pigeonholed myself to do like just cards or just coins or whatever it is. So that I had a variety of things, and I'd been, you know, I'd already been performing to friends, families, and whatever opportunity I had, really. So I'd already got that experience of performing to people. And also because I worked in a school, I've got the perfect audience there every day, every hour. I've got a different set, I'm seeing a different set of people. So, you know, I obviously, I'm not saying, oh, my lessons were just me performing magic, but you know, just a couple of minutes, I could, it's about creating relationships when you're in a classroom and teaching, and that was perfect as well. And it allowed me to test stuff out. So I was already performing, testing stuff out and going, oh, that doesn't work. Or if the kids were calling me out on stuff, that's good feedback for me, because then I'm like, oh, okay, that don't work. I can, next time I'm going to do it like this. So I was already at the stage where I was performing a lot every single day and getting that feedback. And so when I then like joined Leamington and Warwick and did my audition and stuff, and I did some really nice effects, I think, from trying to remember back. And then I got speaking to some other people there, and they were like, oh yeah, I've got this gig or whatever. And I kind of, you know, like when you think, oh, actually, and it wasn't a diss towards them or like what they could do or their magic, but I just kind of felt, hold on, there's no reason why I can't be doing that, because I know that I'm as good as these people. And I think being a teacher as well, I've naturally got that confidence of speaking to people or introducing myself or talking to a group of people. So I'd already got those skills as well. So really it was just putting myself in that position where, right, okay, this is, my job is now I'm going out entertaining people. Yeah. And I think so another thing I'll just touch on as well is that at my school, there was another lad who was really into magic, all right? And he was incredible, card stuff, absolutely amazing. You might know him, you might recognize his name is Ross Taylor. So
yeah, it does ring a bell, yeah.
Yeah, so he's released some like mentalism stuff, and he's released some card stuff. So he's done some stuff with Fraser Parker and loads of card stuff. He's got like a gum tree that he does stuff. But yeah, was technically amazing. He was into a lot of the gambling demonstrations and stuff, which I wasn't that fussed about, but it was great because we were like, right, we'll meet up like once a week after school, and we'll just like hang out and have like a little jam session. So we were doing that as well, and he was like showing me stuff, I was showing him stuff. So it was also great to have that sort of like mini club as well, where we were doing stuff. So the first gig was one of my colleagues at work, his brother was getting married. And he was like, oh, it'd be cool if you could come to my brother's wedding and do some stuff. But you know, like, haven't really got much money and stuff. And I was like, well, do you know what? That's fine. I'll come. It's a good experience for me. And do you know what? I'll ask Ross as well to come as well. So there's two of us. So, you know, so I was trying to help out Ross at the same time. So to get him experience of doing gigs. So we went and did this, and it was, it just went down really well. I mean, you know when you're at a gig and it just goes down really well, and all the tables are loving it and stuff, and you're just like, yeah, I can do it. I've done it. I've just done it. But let's carry on and do some more stuff. So then I thought, oh, well, really, I need to be. I could charge. You know, I know I'm good enough to then charge a fee for me going out and doing events. So then I started going out and charging for events. I think I started off my first gig. I charged $275 for a couple of hours, which again, maybe that might sound a lot for your first paid gig, but I knew that was what I was worth that at that time for my first gig. That was what I was going to charge. And I also drew on a few other students that were at my school, because there was some kids that were really into like skateboarding and blading and stuff. And I used to blade and skateboard myself. So I had that connection with those. And they were showing me the footage and stuff they were filming. I was like, this is awesome stuff. So I was like, oh, I've got these gigs coming up. Do you want? What it'd be really cool if you could come to my gig with me and just film me doing stuff. And so the first, I've got like 2 show reels which are quite a few years old now, but both of those were filmed by one of my students, and they shot. I kind of didn't really give them much direction. I just said, you know, let's focus on me, really focus on the audience. And I think I gave them 60 quid for each video, and I literally did nothing. So they went, they filmed it all, edited it all, and then went, bang, there's the finished product. And yeah, if anybody like goes and searches, I'm sure they'll find them on YouTube or stuff. But they look great. They look really good. So I drew on those. So coming back to the question, that's kind of how I felt. Yeah, I'm ready to do this. And I mean, I love my job. Okay, so I love being a secondary school teacher. I teach computer science. I love computers and stuff. So for me, it was like, yeah, I could do this full time, but I also love the fact that, you know, my other job, and I'm seeing different people every day, different kids, and I'm getting all of that side of stuff as well. And I think, actually, do you know what? This is actually a nice balance for me to have my daily like work life stuff, which I'm getting a salary for, and I know I'm getting that money in every month, and then to have this as my kind of other outlet.
Yeah.
And I think being a teacher, it's important to have something else in your life, because a lot of teachers I know can be consumed with teaching is their life, right? And that's what they do. And I didn't want that. And I love magic, and I thought, well, this is my kind of like escape. This is what, after doing on my daily job, I can do this. And also, I think with teaching teenagers and youngsters, they don't really, or they don't realise at the point where they're in school, they don't recognise what you do for them. So you don't get, unless it's sixth formers who are like they're not appreciative, right? They don't realise that you're helping them, what you're setting them up for in the future. And then they go off, right? That you don't see them. So you never get really to sort of hear how well they've done. Now, I've actually just started up a podcast recently where I've been tracking down some of my past students who have gone on to jobs within the computing industry. And I've been interviewing them, talking about, you know, what they've gone on from school, which has been amazing. But that's something completely different. But my point was that you don't get that feedback, or you don't get that appreciation. They go off and you know you've done a good job, but you don't, no one really sort of tells you, oh, thank you for that, you did a great job. Whereas you go out, you do a magic gig, you do one trick, bang, people are going, what? This is amazing. Come and see this guy. Like, you're incredible. And do you know what I mean? Like, who doesn't love that? Who doesn't love people like saying, oh, this person's like great, come and see this person. So I think it's a nice balance to have that stuff where I know that I'm doing a good job, but I don't get the recognition. And then the magic where you're getting instant recognition, instant gratification, and it gives you that feel-good feeling, right? So I think that's a nice balance for me, and it's not something where I have to as well rely on the gigs. If I don't get any gigs whole year, then it doesn't affect how I can live my life, right? Obviously, I enjoy doing it, and I want gigs, but I don't have to spend loads of time trying to market myself and chase gigs. I can just let them come to me. I do my little bit of marketing. I do my some wedding fairs and stuff, and maybe I do 20 or so gigs throughout the year. But for me, that's fine, because I've got my job in the day. I've got a family at home. I need my week, the weekends are kind of precious, but if I can have, a few gigs here and there scattered throughout the year, then that's a nice balance for me personally.
And yeah, I totally agree with you. And, I interviewed Dave Loosely on this channel, and Dave said, I'm going to be controversial, but I don't think anybody who wants to get into magic should go full time, because as soon as you decide to go full time, you compromise your artistic integrity. You suddenly start performing tricks that that you wouldn't necessarily particularly want to perform, but you're performing those tricks because you have to, because to pay the bill. Suddenly things become very, very different in terms of how you view and how you practice magic.
I completely agree. And there's certain things that, or certain effects that I know people will rave about. And for example, I don't do any rope stuff, or I know a lot of magicians, to make sure they pay the bills, they also do like kid stuff. Now, that doesn't really interest me personally, right? So I'm not going to invest my time to go out and chase kid stuff when it's not what I really want to do. And I don't have to do that. And if a gig comes to me and I look at it and think, do you know what, I don't want to do that, I can easily turn it down. If that was my job, then that puts me in a more compromising position where actually, do you know what, I can't afford to turn down this work. I can't afford to turn down that job. So, I think for me, this is the best solution for me at the moment.
Perfect. Now, before we move on with what you've done with your career, I want to ask you one more question, which I've never asked anybody on this channel before. But again, I think it's something that you would probably be quite a good person to ask. I do get a lot of, because I do the review show with Ryland, right? I get a lot of people coming on this channel saying to me, how can I get my kid into magic? How can I get my kid into magic? I'd love my kid to be like Ryland. What can I do? Now, I know that your daughter is an amazing magician. I've watched videos of her. She's incredible. She's absolutely incredible. Plus, you're a teacher. And also, for those of you that don't know, at the Leamington and Warwick Magic Society, they have got a very big youth club. And two of the best magicians, I haven't seen them for a long time. I don't know what's happened to them. But two of the best magicians I've ever seen, Spencer and Elizabeth, who are very young, that blew me away. I remember the first time I came to the club and saw them, like Spencer was like 12 years old or something, and Elizabeth was maybe a little bit older. And they went out on stage full of confidence. And I was like, this club is amazing, because I don't think that could happen at any other club. So I suppose my question is, any advice for people that want to encourage their child, whatever age the child is, into magic? Because that's something you're successfully doing with your daughter, and I've seen it happen at Leamington as well.
Yeah, I just touched on Leamington, just in case he happens to watch or hear. It's Fletcher.
Sorry, I haven't seen them in years. So
I know. Yeah, Fletcher, Ransby, and Elizabeth. I think they've kind of like gone on, like they've gone on to do their stuff in university, and then they've gone off to do their careers. And I'm sure they're still doing a bit of magic, but I don't think that's their main focus necessarily now. But yeah, it's a difficult one, because I think intrinsically you want your child, oh, like magic, right? I like magic. You've got to like magic. But I don't think it's something you can push on them. Now, my daughter is very she likes to steal the spotlight. She's very dramatic, and she likes kind of like acting and dancing and singing, right? So and if I say, oh, let's make a YouTube video, she's like, yes. Yeah. So regardless, if she doesn't want to do something, well, this can go on YouTube. Okay. So do you know what I mean? It's because, like, you know, she watches trash on YouTube, and it annoys me what she watches, but she loves it. Absolutely loves just watching people and these American families with loads of money just seemingly get toys every day, and they just talk about them. But my point was that she likes to be on camera. Okay, so she likes to be on camera. She likes to be the focus of attention. So I thought, oh, you know, we'll do some magic, and obviously I want to do magic with her because that's something I love. So it's that kind of like bonding thing. So yeah, it's mainly in lockdown. Really, I was like, oh, do you know what? We could set up to do a little video. We could do this trick. So I would go through and I'd say, look, this is what we're going to do. And it wouldn't be scripted at all. And if you look back, she's brilliant at kind of just saying stuff at the top of it, off the top of her head. And I'm like, where's that come from? So it wasn't, none of it was really scripted, but I'd go through and say, right, look, this is what you're going to do. I'll say this, or you need to do this at this point. And that's it. And it might take a few takes to get it right, because we do it and go, okay, well, actually, you know, let's change this bit or do this. But it was really fun, and it was, you know, a good time just spending with my daughter. And we made this little video, and then I'm like, oh, look, I'll send this to grandma, I'll send this to whoever, and she loves that. And then she gets all the feedback and stuff. So yeah, it's great. And like, it's not like she's really into magic, but she likes it. And if I sit down with her and go, right, I'm going to teach you how to do this trick, and we're going to film it, then that's like that, she buys into that. And then we get to make some great content. And it was her birthday not too long ago, and I bought her the Marvin's Magic Rubik's Cube set. I don't know if you've got this, or
Ryland's got one. He absolutely loves it.
I could not believe what was in that set.
There's some great stuff. The hot rod thing, and
the bomb, the dice bomb, but the Rubik's Cube.
And that thing with the domino principle, with the so many cool things in there.
Yeah, really cool. So like, I kind of like ordered it thinking, oh yeah, maybe I'll have this if she's not interested. And when I got it, I was like, actually, this set's amazing. And it's only like £18 or something. I don't know, but so she's got that, and we're going to do some videos with her doing stuff with that. But yeah, that was really cool.
Awesome. Right, that was really good advice. And yeah, she is amazing. And if you haven't checked Kev's daughter out, do so on
my Facebook page. You'll probably
Facebook and stuff. So go check it out. It's really, really cool. So we've now got to a point where you are going out doing gigs. You're getting better and better and better. Now, at some point, you decide to become a creator. But and we'll talk about that. But before that happens, you start gravitating towards Rubik's Cubes. And I want to know how that came about, because to be clear, you were doing Rubik's Cubes before it was cool to do Rubik's Cubes. Now, I think the thing that really put Rubik's Cubes on the map is Stephen Brundridge, Cube 3. Now, I know you're a big cube crediting person, and I don't want to get into different mixes, and, you know, we're not going to go down that route, but he was the guy that kind of made cube magic more popular, you know, with all of the different stuff he was doing. But you were doing cube magic before that.
Yeah.
Like, when the only people that I can think of that was doing stuff with cubes, Garrett Thomas and Tom Crosby, and that you really kind of knew of, that you were seeing. And up until that point, from commercially available props with Rubik's Cubes, there was nothing other than the Enchanted Cube by Daryl. That's really all there was. So what made you decide, what sparked your interest in cubes, and what made you decide to move into that whole genre? Because that is, I don't want to take away from you. You do some amazing stuff as well, but you are known as a cube magician.
Yeah. And do you know what? I think it's the Rubik's Cube has always been one of those things that I saw and I was like, I wish I could do that. And I pick it up and it's like, how do you do that? Because, like, you know, pretty much everyone can maybe solve one layer, but how do you then solve the next layer without messing everything up? I just couldn't get my head around that. And so it's always one of those things that, it'd be cool to do that. And I saw the film with Will Smith in Pursuit of Happiness, which is a great film. And obviously the cube is a big feature in that. I was like, that's, yeah, I wish I could learn that. And that was kind of always in my head. And then someone, a colleague of mine at work, he was like, right, I'm gonna sit down, I'm gonna learn the Rubik's Cube. I was like, all right. So, and then he came back like maybe a week later, bang, done it. I was like, how have you learned how to do it that fast? So I was like, right, I've got to learn I've just got to learn how to solve the cube. So I bought Rubik Remembered, I think it's called, by Mark Elsden. He put out a DVD with Alakazam.
Yes.
Where he
that was the one where he taught the Rubik's Cube solve, and then he suggested doing it blindfolded at the end of the day. Yes.
That was it, yeah. So I got that, and me personally, I just couldn't get on following video instructions because it was like, I need to rewind now. And you know, it was just so tedious. And I was just like, it's not working out for me. So and when I spoke to this colleague at work, he said, we just got the instructions to do it, like the written instructions. So I was like, okay, let's try this out. So I went onto the Rubik's Cube website, and they've got a PDF, which you've got all of the different steps of the algorithms to solve it. So downloaded that, and I downloaded it onto my iPad, and I was like, right, I'm gonna do this. But I think I needed a block of time. I needed some time to sort of focus and do this. And I was doing a gig up in Lancaster, strangely enough, but my cousin worked for some company up in Lancaster, and he said, I've got this gig, do you want to come do it? So brilliant. But it was like a 5-hour train journey, I think, there and back. So I was like, right, actually, this is perfect. I'm going to take my iPad with me. I've got the written instructions, and that's what I'm going to do. So I spent the whole journey like there and back, learning each step. So I just did, so the first step, I made sure I learnt that, mix up the cube, do the first step, mix up the cube. And then when I'd got that nailed, right, I'm going to move on to the second layer. So I just went through that process, and that kind of got me into sort of learning the algorithms. Now, the other thing that I did, which really helped me, was I converted the notation. So on the cube, you've got like the upper layer, which is you, and the right and the left and the down and the back. And I looked at the notation, and I tried to convert those letters into a word. All right. So once I'd made it into a word, so using other letters, obviously in between, made it into a word, I then made that into a picture. So then to string the moves together, instead of remembering all these different moves, I was just remembering some pictures and actually a story. So one of them I remember, I can't remember what part of which algorithm this is, was Riff Ribber, which I remembered in my head. This was a frog playing the guitar with its tongue, right? And then Fly Rough. So I then imagine like a little dog flying off into the sky like Superman. So in my head, that's what I've got. So when I get to that point, I'm like, okay, yeah, Riff Ribber, Fly Rough. And that just helped me to get there. And the trick about the cube is like once you do the moves enough time, it just starts to become like muscle memory. You just do it. And if I tried now to do it slowly and talk through the moves, I know I'd mess up.
I tried to do a video on it a little while ago, and I was just confusing myself something rotten. I didn't know what I was doing, what I was saying. Yeah.
So it was just so now, yeah, it's just like you just do it, right? It's just there. But also near a similar time, Mark Elston also had another effect called Rubik Remembered, which used a stack of cards.
It was a packet trick.
It was a packet trick which did not use an actual Rubik's Cube.
Yeah, and the sides of the cubes were printed on the thing, I remember, yeah.
Yeah, so I also had that. But I wanted to start doing magic with a Rubik's Cube. So there was, Daryl's Enchanted Cube. And I remember my friend, Dave Michaels, said, oh, I can't do this Rubik's Cube. And he gave me his copy of InstaCube. So this is the effect that sort of Henry Harriet credits for RD Insta, where he got the inspiration. So it was kind of like Daryl's Enchanted Cube, but so that you could hand it out to be expected afterwards. So he gave me that, and I had to play around with that. I was like, oh yeah, this is cool. And then I saw Tom Crosby do a lecture, right? So this is when things started to click for me, because he did his lecture, but then he also was doing some routines with Rubik's Cube, and he did like a one-handed solve. I think he tossed it behind his back. He did a one-handed solve, a bit like you would have seen Stephen Brundage do on his America's Got Talent. And I was like, that's amazing. That's like just how like he's got a mixed-up cube and then banging it and it's solved. And I thought that just looks so magical. I want to learn how to do this. So Tom then put me onto The Cube by Takami's Asui. And that's the DVD that I think was the game changer, really, because being able to have this mixed cube and go to a solved cube or vice versa, just like in a matter of seconds, just opened up so many possibilities. So that then, that was kind of like the sort of the precursor to then when I sort of developed cube cards.
Yeah, which then brings us on to cube cards. And I want to talk about Rubik's Cube Magic more in a bit. But before we do, cube cards was your first big release.
Yeah.
And it was responsible for getting a lot of people into Rubik's Cube Magic, because one of the big selling points was you could do cube cards without even needing to solve Rubik's Cube. And it came out before Cube 3, which popularized cube magic. And I remember, still to this day, it's still one of the best cube tricks that there is. I mean, it's absolutely amazing. And it really put your name on the map. So my question there is, what made you decide to create magic? And what made you decide to come up with cube cards? A lot of people want to learn how to become a creator. And cube cards is so creative. So what was the creative process behind creating cube cards? But also, what made you decide? You're already busy with a family, you're busy with teaching, you're busy going out and doing gigs. And now it's kind of like, well, I'm going to throw something else into the mix, and now I'm going to start creating magic as well.
Yeah, I think having in your head, I want to be a creator, is the wrong approach, because I didn't go in with that sort of mindset, like, oh, I want to be a creator. What can I create? It wasn't like that at all. It was more of solving a problem for myself. So I got the Rubik Predicted, by Mark Elston, which was the card thing, and I'd learned this one-handed solve. So I was going to gigs, and I wanted to do some Rubik's Cube stuff, because everybody knows what a Rubik's Cube is.
Yeah.
So I wanted to do some Rubik's Cube magic, but I started off and I was doing the Rubik Remembered, a Rubik Predicted. I keep getting those mixed up. Rubik Predicted, and then I was doing an instant solve. But it kind of didn't really work together, right? They were kind of like two separate things. But I thought the idea was nice about having like a free selection on the card and then having the solve. So I was going out doing Mark Elston's thing, and then I was like, oh yeah, I've got a Rubik's Cube, bang, it's solved. All right, so it didn't really make sense. So I was like, how can I bring both of those things together? And I think I was just sat at my desk one day, and I think if you want to take time to come up with some stuff, you need that space, you need that little bubble away from everything else, where you can just explore and think about stuff. Because if there's always stuff going on, you're not going to have that time for your brain to kind of think about or work out the solutions to these problems. And I saw an image of a mixed up Rubik's Cube at this angle, right? So Rubik, the Mark Elston ones, was just one face of the cube. And I saw a cube image at like this angle. And I thought, well, what if it was the same mix, but I like rotated it here? It looked different. So then I thought, if I had some cards with all these different mixes on, could I then have the cards match the mix of my cube before I could go into the solve? So then I jumped on my computer, and obviously I've got some kind of like graphic-y design skills as well. I love that side of stuff as well. So I then went on my computer and I designed all these images for the cards. And then I looked online to see where I could get them printed. So I design them all, got them printed. I think it probably cost me about 30 quid just to get this custom deck of cards. So I just did this for myself, right? So this was just for me. So I got this custom deck of cards, and then I started going out and doing the routine. And at this point, the routine was, I select a card, I look at it, I then can match the cube to the card, and then I solve the cube. Okay, so that's what it was in the first instance. And I showed it to Kieran Johnson, or Kieran Lefevre, and he was like, "Oh, I want some." So I got a set for him. So I made up a set for him, and then he was like, "Oh, it'd be cool if." Obviously, because it ends with the cube solving, it'd be cool if the card solved. So I was like, yeah, it's like that. Yes, that is a good idea. So that's when it then built in the fact that then everything solved. So it kind of like brought it full circle. So I got that all made up and stuff. So kind of to answer your question, it wasn't that I had the mindset of, right, I want to go and make a trick. Okay, it was like, oh, I've got this problem. I want to personally do a trick with a Rubik's Cube, and I want to make it a routine. I want to make it make sense. So that's why I sort of like went on this journey of designing it, made it, and then I had it, and then I've got this routine. And before I even considered going to a magic store, and actually I didn't approach a magic store, but before I went to that, I had the product finished. It wasn't just like a brain fart or an idea. I had the product. I had the physical product. I had the routine. I had the idea. And I was friends with Mark Travisoni from Saturn Magic, because he used to give me a lift to Leamington and Warwick Magic Society. So every other week I was in his car on the way there, and I was like, oh, I've come up with this trick. Let me show it you. Like, see what you think about it. Let me perform it to you. And I think this was just at the start when Saturn were just sort of establishing themselves. So it was one of the first releases I think they had. And then obviously he was like, yeah, I love this. Let me pull it out, because he had the contacts with like Murphy's or whatever and stuff. And I'm like, okay, yeah, but why not? that'd be cool. So that's how it started, really. But one critical thing that I'll mention now is that I was using Takamiz's technique. So in order to do the solve, I was using his technique, but I didn't have permission to do that. Okay, so I'd come up with everything, but I was like, look, I can't release this because that's not my work. So I needed to get permission from Takamiz, all right? And I knew from speaking to other people, and like Tom Crosby mentioned before, he doesn't give permission. He's never given permission. And you know, the Cube DVD came out in about 2013, I think, and I came up with Cube cards in 2015. I think it was published in 2016, around that time. So it's not like a massive. It's not like, oh, it came out years ago, and it was fairly only a few years ago. Plus the fact, I think it went under the radar because it was in Japanese and it was subtitled, which I'm sure probably put a lot of people off. And the trailer didn't do it as much justice as it could have been given, right? So I think it went under the radar a bit. And I could have just gone ahead and gone, do you know what? Not many people know about Takamiz or know about his work. I just released it, right? But I was like, do you know what? I don't want to do that. And I had quite a few phone conversations with Kieran and said, could I come up with like my own way of doing it and stuff? I was like, no, but it's not going to be as good because his method is perfect. It's not going to be as good. So I was like, right, I'm going to approach him, ask for permission. So I found him on Facebook and I added him and I sent him a message and I didn't get a response. So I sent a message that I think I've come up with this effect. I think I might have sent a video of it as well. I can't remember, but I didn't get a response. And I was like, all right, well, that's it then, really. And I thought, well, do you know what? Maybe he doesn't understand English that well. I don't know. So I thought, why am I contacting him in English? He's not English, right?
Oh.
I need to contact him in Japanese. So I had a friend who I met when I was traveling, a lady called Yuko, who was Japanese, and she was so this is in Europe. I can't remember where I met her, maybe like Berlin or somewhere like that. And we stayed in touch like friends on Facebook and stuff, because she was going to be she wanted to start teaching in the UK and she was moving to London or somewhere like that. So I kept in touch with her and I was like, right, I'm going to contact Yuko. I'm going to say, look, I want to send this guy Takamiz a message. Can you help me out? Because I want to send it him in Japanese. Can you translate it for me? So I sent her an email with, this is what I want to say. Like, bless her, she then obviously spent time. So I'm sure it's not a super quick thing to do. She went through and she did proper translation. So I didn't use Google Translate or anything. She properly translated it for me, sent it to me, and then I sent that to Takamiz. And I got a response.
In Japanese?
In Japanese, right? So I got a response in Japanese. So then I had to go, I've got this response in Japanese. Obviously, I could use Google Translate to get an idea. So I then went back to her and said, this is what he said. She got back to me and said, oh, this is what he's saying, which I think was along the lines of, well, I can't remember the order, but he was like, I like your effect. It's something new, right? Because I think what he was against was people wanting to teach or do something with his effect, which wasn't new. It was like just a rehash of what he'd done. Okay. But he was like, this is something different. This is something new. I like it. I'm going to speak to my my boss, and I think what I meant by that was he was releasing stuff through a Japanese shop called Tejineya, which was run by Shoma, I think that's how you pronounce his name, who has collaborated with Takumi on quite a few releases, and then so I sent back to Yuko. She then sent back the response, and then I got her to then send a reply to that in Japanese. So she translated it like that. Wow. And we had this conversation, right? And then we organized a Skype. So it's like, let's jump on Skype. So I then had this Skype call with Takumi, and at this point, his English was still really patchy. It's much better now. It's quite good, but it's still really patchy. And we spoke about it, and he's like, because originally I was using the 1221 mix, and that's what I printed up on my cards. And he's like, do you know what? Actually, when you do the mix, it'd look better in the 2112 mix. So I was like, yeah, I agree. But now I've got to learn the 221, and in my head, I'd already like doing 1221. It didn't take me long to kind of like to get to doing the 2112, but that was it. And he said, yes, you can teach us on your project, but can you? It'd be cool if I can be on it. So Takumi saying, it'd be cool if I could be on it to kind of introduce myself, because I think because he was over in Japan, nobody knew who he was, and even people who might have been doing his moves, he was kind of like an unknown entity. So I think I kind of feel somewhat, well, obviously I'm privileged that he gave me permission, but I also think it worked in both ways, in the fact that actually I started to put his name on the map in terms of Cube Magic, or people actually realizing, right, this is the guy who came up with this technique to start with.
Yeah.
And
which for those people that don't do Cube Magic, the technique he came up with is the building blocks of Rubik's Cube Magic. It's what 90% of all Rubik's Cube Magic is based around.
Exactly, yeah. So and that was great for me. Actually, there's another part of this story I've forgotten about, because when I was having these conversations, fortunately for me, I was friends with Kieran, and I've been talking to him, and he was going off to 4F this year, and Takumi was there, right? And just out of coincidence, because Kieran was like one of a few English people, Takumi just had the conversation with him, and Kieran hadn't mentioned anything about me or my effect. Takumi said to Kieran, do you know Kev G? Right? And obviously, if it was anybody else other than Kieran, another magician that was at 4F, they would have probably gone, no. But because it was Kieran and we'd been talking, he was like, yeah. And so he given me like, oh yeah, Kev's a nice guy. Yeah, he's a good guy. So he'd kind of then sort of reinforced the fact, yeah, who you're discussing and speaking to is a good guy to kind of be dealing with. So that went in my favor as well. And then we sort of like came to an agreement so that I could release cube cards, and so that everybody was happy. And I shipped some off to Japan, so then they could be sold in Japan by Takumi or the shop he worked for, or whatever. So that was kind of sort of the origin story and how it came about. And obviously, if that wouldn't have happened, then I wouldn't be where I am today in terms of putting stuff out there.
And it's still available now. You can still get it from Saturn and all good magic dealers. It's an incredible trick. It really is. Really, really is. So before we move on, any advice for people who are wanting to get into Rubik's Cube Magic? Let me give you the questions I get all the time. Do I need to use gimmicks? Aren't these Rubik's Cube gimmicks very expensive? Do I really need to learn how to solve Rubik's Cube in order to do cube magic? Where's a good place to start?
Yeah.
Can you just very briefly synopsisize any advice on getting into Rubik's Cube magic as somebody who basically does it all?
Yeah. So I think the thing that people say is like, oh, like why would you do magic with a Rubik's Cube? Which I think is a really strange thing to say based on all of the different things magicians use when they're performing magic. Because a Rubik's Cube is, everybody knows that. It's an iconic thing, right? Everyone knows what a Rubik's Cube is. So why not utilize that in your magic? Because people, you're not going to go, oh, what's this? And people are going to go, well, I've never seen that before. Of course they know what it is. And even like all the younger kids know what it is. Okay. This isn't something that is just old people. And I'll tell you now from working in schools, there's kids in school that are doing Rubik's Cubes every day. In fact, like someone, a friend of mine, a colleague at work, was chatting to a parent who said, oh, my kids love Rubik's Cubes. And he said, oh, I know someone who does Rubik's Cube magic. And I got a gig from that straight away. And when I was doing, this was over Zoom, and when I was doing the gig, there was Rubik's Cubes on their desks, right? And then a couple of weeks later, I saw my daughter's old teacher, and she was like, oh, yeah, I recognise who you are now. Oh, you did that Zoom show the other week, because my son was one of the kids that was on it. And I never knew this. And he was like, oh, yeah, he's got his Rubik's Cube in his bag now. And they were just walking down the street, right? So if people are saying, oh, no, like, kids don't use Rubik's Cube, or people don't know what they are, it's absolute rubbish. So coming back to the point of where to start and what to do. Now, if you want to put a Rubik's Cube effect into your act straight away, then you use a gimmick, right? There's some great gimmicks out there. Henry Harris, obviously, unbelievable stuff that he's put out where you don't need to know how to solve the cube, right? You can learn the effect, you can do it. And that's fine, that's great. And I think for stage, that's even better, okay? Because you don't need to know how to solve the cube, you don't need to solve the cube if you're doing it on stage. If you're doing it close up, then I think you're under more scrutiny in terms of what you're doing. So maybe the gimmicks or whatever you want to do, you've got to carry them around, or you've got to hide them or do them in. So it's harder to get away with doing stuff close up. But if you're not interested in learning how to do the cube and you want to do cube stuff, then do some stuff with the gimmicks that are available. If you want to do cube stuff close up, my personal recommendation is to learn how to solve the cube first, because inevitably there's going to be a situation where you do something wrong. And if you don't know how to solve the cube, you're stuffed. And, I'd say there's times where, for whatever reason, I lost my train of thought when I've been even doing cube cards, right? And I've done something wrong. And if I didn't know how to solve the cube, I'd be screwed. But you've got the perfect excuse to reset and start again, because no one knows where you're going, right? And so if I ever mess up, I think to myself, Jesus, what have I done? But I say to myself, oh, do you know how to learn how to solve a Rubik's Cube? And what you need to do, so first thing you need to do, you're going to start with a white cross. And I just go through an explanation of solving the cube. And they're like, that is it. They are impressed just by that, right? Just by you going, right, yeah, look, do this, and you can do it. Solved it. And they're like, and then you can just, it's all right. It's okay, because you can just now restart, right, take a breath, and just go back into it.
Yeah.
So I think it's essential really that you know how to solve the cube, because there's those situations where you're going to need to get yourself out. But also, my belief is that if you're going to do magic with a certain prop, you need to have not necessarily a relationship, but you need to have like some kind of that object needs to be something that you enjoy using or playing or whatever. And with the Rubik's Cube, this is addictive, Okay, this is one of those things where once you learn it, this is addictive. You just want to
yeah.
try and solve it. And I think that also builds your confidence in doing stuff with cube magic, but also when you're presenting it, you're sort of drawing on your personal feelings. Or if you enjoy it, that's gonna, the audience are gonna realize, like, oh, they know what they're talking about. This is not just something they've picked up and go, oh, I'm going to do magic with this. So I think, yeah, definitely learn the cube. I know I've got some of my friends that perform cube cards, for example, which again, I recommend that you learn how to solve the cube. But I've got some friends who don't know how to solve the cube and haven't got around to learning that do perform cube cards, because if you just use the basic method that I teach, you can't really go wrong, right? When I've gone wrong, I've tried to be too clever and I've like put in loads of like false mixes and other stuff, right? So that's the only situation I've gone wrong. But if you just do it in its basic way, then it's hard to go wrong with it. And I know that's what they do. That's in their like number one set. They do it all the time and they don't know how to solve the cube. So it's a decision, I guess, that someone needs to make. Right, do I want to put the time and effort into learning the cube and getting good at it, or is it just something you're like, oh, Rubik's cubes are cool at the moment, I want to put that in my act?
Yeah.
Then maybe you're better off getting a gimmick, which it doesn't matter if, because again, audience are going to say, "What can I check it out?" Probably at some point, or some drunk guys will going to grab it off you and go, "Oh, let me have a look at this." What? And then, if you're in that situation, you can't solve it. Great, maybe hopefully you've maybe got a backup in your bag or case or whatever. But I think just as a fail safe, learn.
And also, back when I performed restaurants, one of the things that was most magical is if you go to a restaurant and there's a kid there with a Rubik's Cube just blatantly just failing miserably, and you just walk over and you go, they just look at you like some sort of god. Like you can't do anything else at that point. That's just like, that's it. You have just done the most amazing thing that those people have ever seen.
Yeah. And yeah, you'll be like, can I say how much people are impressed just by solving the cube? It's that's kind of like an effect in itself, because as I mentioned at the start, it's before I even learned how to do it, I was like, what is this enigma of the cube? How has anybody got the brain capacity to be able to do that, right? And I'm sure that's what those people are thinking who can't do it. They're still thinking back to what I thought. Like, it's like it's impossible. How can you do that? So I think, yeah,
it really is. I remember pre-COVID, I'd gone to Legoland with Ryland, and he was 6, and he carries a Rubik's Cube around with him everywhere, like everywhere. He can't leave the house without at least 2 Rubik's Cubes for some reason. And he was in the queue at 6 years old. We were queuing up for the cafe for a sandwich halfway through the day in Legoland, and he's just there solving a Rubik's Cube. And I was just kind of on the phone, and I looked back round, and the entire restaurant's cafe area had just stopped, including the staff, and they were all watching this kid solve Rubik's Cube. And it's something that people, because you're right, people are so aware of it, they know how difficult it is perceived to be. Because let's be honest, it's not actually, when you get your head around it, it's not actually that difficult.
No.
And that's the beautiful thing about it. I think a lot of magicians don't learn it because they're scared of it, because they think, oh my God, this is going to be this difficult thing. It's lots of memory work. It's lots of algorithms. It's not actually that difficult. Ryan learned it at the age of 5. You know, there's kids younger than him that can do it. It's not that difficult, but the perception from the audiences is that it's ridiculously difficult to do. So just the act of solving a Rubik's Cube is going to give you, they're going to give you far more credit for ability than you actually have.
Yeah, massively. And the other thing that I was going to mention is that when I have one of these on my desk at school the whole time. So I just randomly, like, I'll just solve the cube and not even sort of make a thing of it. Kids will just be like, what? Or I'll just do an instant solve and they'll be like, what's just happened, right? But the other thing that I was going to mention is that for me, being like teaching computer science, this is a perfect excuse to have this on my desk because it's not magic trick. Actually, I can teach the concepts of like programming, for example, with the Rubik's Cube, because, you know, people like this word algorithm gets bandied about a lot, and it sounds really technical, doesn't it? And like, oh, what, you know, computers doing algorithms and stuff. And all an algorithm is some steps in sequence to solve a problem. So even, you know, you get a recipe book to make a meal, you're following an algorithm. You're following those steps in order to get to your solution at the end. And it's exactly the same for learning the Rubik's Cube. And the nice thing about the Rubik's Cube and how I can easily relate it to computing is that it has those three main constructs of a computer program, which is the sequence, doing the things in the order, selection, so if this, do this. So, you know, when you look at, so if you're in a certain situation, right, I'm going to do this algorithm. If it's this, do this algorithm. And also repetition, which is repeating the same instructions. And when you're solving the Rubik's Cube, you end up doing the same moves over and over again in order to solve certain pieces. So that's another reason why I really love the cube, because as well as being this awesome object I can do magic with, I can use it in my lessons, and it helps me to teach the concepts of computing and programming as well. But I think breaking it down like that, hopefully some people are thinking, actually, this is more manageable than maybe I think it is, because you're just going to be following these steps.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Anybody who's watching this, I hope they, you know, that what you just had there was some killer advice on Rubik's Cubes. Absolutely killer advice. Let me ask you one last question before we move on, which is, not counting your own creations, what's your favorite Rubik's Cube trick, stroke, product?
Okay, so I'm just trying to think there's some really cool stuff, right? There's some really cool stuff. But if I was going to choose something that I use in my show, okay, I'll use Venom Cube by Henry Harrius. And with that, I use John Allen's Cube Tube. Okay, so I don't know if you've seen that, but basically it allows you
to, yeah, it's great.
Yeah, so you can start off with 2 cubes that are solved, all right, from the start of your show, and that they could be inspected, which I think is a really nice little addition to it. So I use that, and I've just got cube in bottle. So actually I do. So previously, or I still do, haven't had a wedding gig for a while, but I was using Kieran Johnson's Isolated, which is a signed Rubik's Cube. Mm-hmm. I've just got Henry's product as well, so I'm going to think about how I can maybe use both of those together. I haven't quite sort of fine-tuned that yet. And I also, previously, I'd come up with my own version of a Rubik's Wall, so the Rubik's Cube Mosaic, all right? And I did that in a show, and it had some great advantages. So the advantages of my version was that you could have all the cubes mixed up if you wanted to, and then you stack them and you can do your revelation. But I have recently, I did back it on Kickstarter, Rubik's Wall by Bondley and Happy and stuff. And I know you did a review show on that, which is just so much, like, it's just, I don't know, the method is just so good because you haven't got to do anything, right? So it's much better than what I had come up with. So next time I have the opportunity to do that, that's the version I'm using.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. We did a virtual show for Slightly Unusual a little while ago, and Ryland did a 15-minute spot, and he closed it with that routine, and it just brought the house down.
Yeah, because it's just so clean. It's just so clean that I think it's just better than all of the other versions of that have come out. And I can't see how there could be a better version of it.
No, it's done. Absolutely. Okay, well, that's really good to know. Now, you've continued to create. You've brought lots of things out through Saturn. and all have been really well received. You've also obviously carried on performing, but I know that during COVID, you've been very busy with a new project that you're doing separately to Saturn. You're doing it your own and with somebody else,
Yeah.
and something that you're very excited about.
Yeah.
So can you please talk more about that? Because I know that you're excited about it, and the Magic community don't know about it, and they're going to soon. And anybody who does cubes, I know they're going to want to get involved in this. So give us the lowdown, give us a sneak peek of what's going on.
All right. So what shall I tell you? Right. Okay. So as you can tell from my sort of expression, I'm really excited about this, and it's been so I'm working. This is a collaboration between a friend of mine called Colin Klaus, who, if you don't recognize his name, he has brought out some stuff that's available from Alakazam under the Alchemy Tree, which he runs with Simon Alexander. And I think that the most recent thing that's come out from memory, or what I purchased last, was Ghost by Colin Klaus, which is a vanish or production of a coin. And he's got an amazing gimmickless 3-fly routine called Schmetterling. So yeah, he's got that. So but this, coming back to this project I'm working on, it's a gimmickless cube project. So all of the content on it, you can just do with a Rubik's Cube, okay? And it's, the way that we've designed it is that it's a collection of solves or forces or mixes or ways to do things with just one Rubik's Cube, as well as some routines as well. So it kind of started off as this thing where it was like we had this sort of initial idea, and then it's just gone pfft. And I think for the past few months or so, me and Colin have just been sending videos or messages, like it's just consumed like everything else outside of my working day. It's just been this. And how that started was, I initially met Colin at the Magic Circle, and this was after Cube Cards was released. And he came up to me and he was like, "Oh, hey, like I really love your release of Cube Cards." And I got chatting to him then, and that was kind of like it. And we stayed in touch, and just a really nice guy, right? And then he, a year or so, a couple of years ago, he sent me an algorithm to do something with the cube, which was really cool. But I don't know, it was one of those things where maybe I got other messages and it kind of like I forgot about it, and I didn't really think much. And it was just to do one thing. All right, it was like maybe I sort of thought in back ahead, okay, that's cool, but I can't see where it fits in with anything that I could do. And then he released Ghost, and I got in touch. I sent a message saying, "Oh, look, bang, I've learned this already," and I actually was sending him little ideas. "Oh, look, I've come up with this technique or this thing," and he's like, "Oh, this is brilliant." And he's like, "Oh, like stop!" Like he's like, "Oh, you're the first person that I've seen do this," and I was just hammering him with loads of videos. Okay, so that's what I'm like. When I get onto something, I'm focusing on something, I'm just like, "Oh, this idea," and I was like, bang, sent him a video, and he was like, "What? Hold up, slow down." And he then reminded me of this algorithm that he'd sent me, and I was like, "Yeah, that's cool." And I learned it. I was like, "Yeah, this is wicked." And then I thought back to a solve that I had devised, which was based on Frederick Heyman's squeeze solve, which he released through Vanishing Ink. So I met Frederick at the session convention. I think it was about 2018, and he showed it me there, and he didn't tell me how to do it, but I sort of went away and kind of worked out, but I worked out wrong. So I did it differently. So I had an alternative way, and it wasn't the same as his, but I then came up with a one-handed version. So this was one of the, so this was, yeah, I did a one-handed version to camera, and it looked great, but it wasn't very practical because it was just more of like a social media thing rather than an audience thing. So over the past, since then, it's something where I've been like, oh, I want to make this so I could perform it. So I've been tinkering around and playing with the handling for age and age and age of changing stuff until I've got up to a place where I think, oh, this is really cool. So then I thought, we could merge these things to two things together and maybe make it into like a little bit of a routine. So then Colin reminded me of some other ideas and stuff he'd come up with, and it kind of just like snowballed from there, and we were just like, oh, I've got this idea, oh, I've come up with this, and it just then sort of exponentially grew into this beast of a project, whereby it's we've got routines on there, but they're all modular, right? So you could take parts out of it or put other bits in and change it all around, and we've also got some other cool stuff from other people who have said, yeah, like you can teach this on the project. So again, Takami's again has gave me permission to teach his behind the back rotation force, which I think I remember showing you once when you came to lecture.
It's absolutely incredible.
Awesome. But yeah, I don't want to like say loads of stuff, but there is going to be loads of content on there, and I think it's just going to be a resource which anyone who does Rubik's Cube magic is going to love, even if it's just like one thing. But I don't believe that you're just going to get one thing from this project. You're going to pick up loads of cool stuff. Yeah, it's just awesome. It really is. And
I can tell how excited you are. I can tell how excited.
It's been a really collaborative thing between me and Colin. It's the first time that I've properly collaborated with someone on something. And again, it's a weird situation because I haven't actually been able to go and see him face to face. We've just been doing it over like WhatsApp with videos, and then we've had to film all of our sort of tutorials and explanations separately as well, and then Colin's going to do all the editing and stuff together. But yeah, it's going to be really, really good. I'm really excited for it.
So you have a website dedicated for the launch of this product, which is, I'm going to put it at the bottom of the screen. What's that?
Yeah, so by the time this goes out, hopefully we'll be ready to go. So it's going to be available exclusively in the first instance at rubikscubemagician.co.uk.
What a cool URL.
So I've had this for a number of years, but it's just kind of been one of those that I've just sat there, I've done nothing with, and I thought, actually, this is going to be perfect. So it's going to be available at Rubik's Cube Magician. The title of the project, I'll give you an exclusive on this, is called Refractor.
Oh wow, that's cool.
So how we got to that was we were kind of thinking, what could we call it, and thinking of things related to the cube or the colours. So Colin said about refraction, so like refracting light. But maybe we could like call it refraction with a K in it, just to like make it really. I was like, actually, what about refractor? I don't know where that came from, but then also maybe it was this link as well, because in Transformers there's a transformer called Refractor as well. I thought, that's perfect, because we've got the elements of like the color and refraction and like the transformation of like and Transformers. Having that link, I was like, this is the perfect title. So,
and do you have a price point yet?
We've still not 100% decided, but I think it's going to be around sort of like the £30 mark, which I think, like, to be honest, what is there? I think it's I think it's too cheap, but I think because it's like a download project. I think now, because people aren't getting a physical thing, if this was on DVD, people would go, yeah, straight away, right? that's fine, £30 fine. But I think there's this concept or this thing people say, like, because it's a download, that it's not worth as much.
Oh, no.
I don't know. That's maybe just like my...
Put it this way, the one download I've bought on Cube Magic is Cubism, and that cost me 200 quid. You know, and that was a download with no physical product.
Yeah, but I think in the same sense, we want people to actually go out and do this, and as much as I don't think people are gonna buy it who aren't necessarily interested in Cube Magic, right? But also wanted it to put it as a price point. Like if you're just you're maybe as a kid who's brilliant at doing a Rubik's Cube, can solve it really fast, wants to get into Magic, but we didn't want the price point to be prohibitive to other people, right? So we kind of thought,
on this project, are you going to include the basics? Like, could somebody who's never done Rubik's Cubes before download this, and you're going to go through the basics of solving Rubik's Cube before you go into the more unique stuff? Or should they have a working knowledge of Rubik's Cube before they buy this product off you?
Cool. That's a really good question. And actually, there's going to be a frequently asked questions section on the website where I'll answer all these kind of questions. But yes and no in the same sentence. So rather than going from the sort of start where it's like, this is how to solve a cube, there's loads of resources out online, right? You can go on YouTube, you can go on the Rubik's Cube website. That's just there already. So we didn't really want to repeat what stuff was out there already, okay? But what we have done, or what Colin's done, I should say, and this is going to be a free, we're giving this part away free, is the transition part. So we're calling it like level up. So like level up. So if you've just learned the beginner method, how do you transition to improve your speed and improve your solving skills? So actually me, I've only ever learned the beginner method, but I've got it down to, my average is about 45 seconds just doing the beginner method. I haven't learned F2L or any of those other variations. I'd like to, but it's just one of those things where I like, do I need to? But the stuff that Colin has put together, he has got some really quick wins or some really cool tips of how you can start to bridge that gap between having learned the beginner method to learning some more of the advanced techniques. So there's going to be a series of videos, a series of tutorials that are going to be accessible for free. So again, people can have a look at like the teaching before they go, yeah, this I want to pay some money for this project. And those things are going to sort of elevate your skills to be able to solve the cube faster. So I think that's something,
yeah, rather
than repeating what everyone else has done, this is something that I don't think Colin was like, I couldn't find this. This is if I could go back and this was available at the time where I was learning Cube Magic, this would have sort of.
I don't think that information's anywhere. Like Ryland wanted to learn OOL, and I had to get Rubik's Cube lessons with Tom Crosby, because I was like, you're now going beyond what I can do, so we're going to have to get an expert in. And I think, as far as I'm aware, outside of trying to decipher YouTube videos, and it gets very complicated at that point, very complicated, or like paying for lessons from somebody, there's nothing out there. So that's a really good idea. I want to point out to anyone watching this as well, even though, because just so you know, Kev, more than half of the people that watch this are from America and Canada. They're not from the UK. Mm-hmm. So even though Kev has given us a .co.uk URL and quoted a price approximately in pounds, this is obviously going to be available worldwide, right?
Yeah, I mean, anybody
can. Physical product, so anyone could,
anybody can go to the website and purchase it, and the way it's going to work is that you'll get some login credentials. Okay, so you can then log into the website. You'll get access to the tutorial section of the website, and rather than just putting this as like one video, it'll be available to download as that if you want. But we've broken it up into the different sections, so you can just focus on, right, I want to learn how to do this solve, right, I want to learn how to do this mix or whatever it is, so that you can easily just jump to the section you want to learn and the video specifically about that.
Got you. Now, one last question. Can I try and convince you to perform something off the project for us?
Yeah, I think I can stretch to yeah, I can definitely show you something. Sure. Yeah.
You're amazing. Right, I tell you what, you grab your cube and
Okay.
we'll have a look at something off the project.
Cool. Hey Craig, so this is my routine Decepticon that I'll share with you. So you see that I've got a mixed up cube. And now, are you familiar with all the different colours on a Rubik's Cube?
Yes, I am.
Okay, perfect. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the cube behind my back. What I'd like you to do is just to name out loud any colour you like.
White.
White. Any reason why you chose the colour white?
I think it was you talking about weddings. I think you psychologically influenced me. I'm not too sure.
Now, have you ever seen anybody do the Rubik's Cube behind their back?
No.
No? Okay, well, check this out, look. You said white, yeah?
Yeah.
That look. Can you see there's 3 white bits all in a row?
Wow.
You don't look that impressed, but it's the only place on the cube where there's 3 of the same colour all next to each other. But look, you see actually white, your colours, so there's some white here, there's some white here, there's some white here, and there's some white here, right?
Yeah.
Now it'd be cool because I can do magic. It'd be cool if I could do something magical and like take my hand and like give the cube a swipe and it'd all change white. That'd be cool, right?
That'd be great.
All right, okay. So look, what we'll do is Did you miss that? All right. So look, I know that was quick. So let me show you this again. So if you can just name another color on the cube.
Blue.
Blue. Any reason for blue?
Ryland's favorite color.
Okay, that's cool. Actually, did you know blue is actually the most popular color in the world?
No.
Yeah, it is, and it's used on like over 70% of companies' like logos and stuff.
I didn't know that.
No. So I think I am there. If I can hold this up.
I see 2 blue there.
You did say blue though, right?
Yes, I did.
Yeah, okay, cool. All right, so look, I'm going to show you this one more time and you can see exactly what's happening. So if you can just name any other color.
Okay, green. Let's go green.
Green. Okay, perfect. Look, the cube's going to go behind my back. I'm going to give this a mix up. And no, I'm not. Right, if you're thinking I've got another cube, I'm switching it behind my back. I'm not. So just so you can see, I've not got another cube. But you said the color green, yeah?
Yeah.
Can you see on the cube actually here we've got 2 green pieces?
Yes.
So this is what's going to happen. I'm going to take my hand. My hand is going to cover the cube, and my hand is going to squeeze the cube like this. And when I squeeze the cube, can you see that the first row completely solves?
Yeah.
Let me show you this again, okay? Now I'm going to take my hand, I'm going to squeeze the cube, and when I squeeze the cube, that is when the second layer solves. Look, the third time, I'm going to squeeze the cube like this, and that is when the whole face of the colour that you named green is solved. But look, Craig, I didn't just solve one face of the cube, I solved all faces of the cube.
Wow.
So yeah, that's that routine. So Craig, do you know how to solve the cube?
Yes, I do.
You do. Okay, cool. Have you ever heard of this thing called God's number?
Yes, 20.
Yeah, 20. So this is basically, it took 35 CPU years and some scientists to work out that the Rubik's Cube, even though there's 43 quintillion possible combinations, that any cube can be solved in 20 moves or less, which is pretty crazy. So let me demonstrate something for you. What I'd like you to do is to name any color on the Rubik's Cube.
Red.
Red. This color, yeah?
Yeah.
Cool. So look, I'm going to put the cube in my palm with the red facing up. Now that was a conscious choice, right?
Yeah.
So what I'm going to do this time, I'm just going to want you to say stop whenever you want. And I'm going to just turn the cube like this.
Stop.
There on yellow. So the first colour you chose was red. The second colour you chose was yellow, right?
Yeah.
Now, I don't know if you've seen any of those Rubik's Cube competitions, but the cube has to be mixed up in such a way that it's not just like easy to solve. Yeah. So let me try this. What was the first colour you chose?
It was red.
Red. Okay. So red. All right. Pretty cool, right? Now, what I was actually using was this technique called cognitive mapping. And this is something cubers use whereby I'm actually tracking where the colours of the cubelets are so I can use the most efficient way possible to get to a solved side. So let me show you this again. So the other colour you chose was yellow, yeah?
Yeah.
So looking at the cube, I can get to yellow in 14 moves. All right, look. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 moves gets me to your colour, yellow. Now, have you heard of something called cognitive illusion?
No.
So this is where your brain tricks you into thinking you've seen something when you've seen something else. So look, this is something like this. Yeah, look, I know that was really quick. So let me just show you this again. So if I've got a mixed cube, right, and this looks mixed, right, but this is just your brain tricking you because look, if I just give it a quick little wave, you'll actually see in fact it is a solved cube. And that is my routine colour. It is called cognitive illusion. That was it. Lost track.
Oh, that is awesome. That is absolutely awesome. That was incredible, Kev. I mean, that is absolutely incredible. You know that I love cube magic. I've always loved cube magic, and I'm going to be right at the front of the queue when that launches. Contact me because we'll do a review show special on it when you launch it, and we'll
wicked.
That'd be an amazing thing to do. So let me know when it launches. When is it going to be roughly? Month? I mean, obviously, we're not going to hold you to this.
Yeah. But, so I think we're pretty much there in terms of having film tutorials. I know Colin's got to do a few more little bits, and I think more sort of procrastinating on like, oh yeah, I want to touch this bit up or do it better. And then really it's kind of the difficulty is obviously getting real world performances and maybe getting stuff for like a trailer or whatnot. But as soon as possible, really. So hopefully, yeah, it won't be too much longer.
Okay, so sort of May, June, July.
Yeah, hopefully it won't go to July, but yeah.
Cool. Brilliant stuff. Okay, cool. Now, this has been an incredible interview, like an absolutely awesome interview. I've been wanting to get you on the channel for a while. Our schedules just haven't married up, and finally they have, which is fantastic. I've got one last question for you.
Cool.
Which is what's next? Because you've had a great career, even though you've chosen not to be a full-time pro. You've made a name for yourself in the magic community. I have gone and done gigs because obviously me and Kev don't live too far away from each other. And I've done gigs in an area and they've said, oh, have you ever seen this guy, Kev? Like, he's absolutely amazing. I know from speaking to people how incredible you are as a magician, but also as a creator. You've created some fantastic products. Cube cards is the thing that genuinely has launched so many people into the wonderful world of cube magic, and your name is synonymous with cubes. And now with this new endeavor that's coming out, that's just going to get stronger and stronger and stronger. What's next? Is there anything left on your magical bucket list that you haven't achieved? Would you like to, I know you do lectures. Would you like to do more there? Are there other creations you want to do? Anything that you haven't? Would you like to see Rubik's Cube Magician become a bigger thing than it is right now? What have you got planned in the future?
I think it's tricky to answer. And going back to the start of my career, it was like the thought of creating a product and putting a product out there was kind of like, that's not going to happen. And then I can remember when I was speaking to Mark at Saturn, he was like, "Oh well, you know, or maybe at like some point when you do a lecture," and I'm like, "What? I've one product. I'm not going to do a lecture." Do you know what I mean? And that was alien to me. I was like, kind of, I've not got enough material to do that. And then, you know, as the years gone and stuff, again, like for any of the stuff that I've created, it hasn't been oh, I need to make a new product, I need to create something. It's just been something I've like picked up and gone, oh, like, you know, what can you do with this, or something that I wanted to do myself, and thought, oh, it'd be cool if you could do this, which has then led to products. And yeah, I did my first lecture, and I think it was the last lecture before lockdown, right? So I got one lecture under my bag, which had gone really well, and then it's kind of like been nothing. So it'd be really nice to go and do some more lectures.
And are you available to be booked, like for live and virtual lectures? Is that something people can reach out for you?
Yeah, I've tried to not really push the sort of virtual lectures. Simply the reason being is that I want to go out and meet people, and I want to have that experience myself of going and actually physically meeting people and having the audience in front of me, right? So that's why I've kind of refrained and not really said, oh, hey, I'm available to do virtual lectures. Just selfishly, I want to go to a club myself, experience what that club's like and the members, and have a chat and a good time. So hopefully, you know, once things get back to give me the opportunity to be able to do that, then that would be great to go out and meet some people at clubs. And then I've got, so in my lecture, I've got some other little bits and bobs. So I've got a few card things. I've got some like mentalism bits, just kind of like a range of different things, really. So they've been things I've been working on, and I've sent out to some friends to have a play around with. So yeah, I just want to sort of tidy that up, and I want to put all of those things, because I look at them and they're cool, right? But I don't know if they're sort of like, oh, this is a product in itself that I want to put out.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Right. So what I would love to do was, and I've started doing this, is to write up some of these effects or routines or whatever, and I want to put together like a little booklet. So I've got like a physical thing with effects in, and I'm going to get my mate, who's an amazing artist, to do like a design and stuff on the front. So that's what, you know, I want to get that done. I want to have that done for me as well. So it's just been nice to have on the side. Oh, cool. And that's the other thing about creating. It's like, it's not necessarily about making a name, but it's just the satisfaction of going, hey, look, I've done this myself. And like with my products, it's not, as I mentioned before, it's not like I've got an idea and gone, oh, can you work out the solution for this? I love going through that whole process of, right, what is it? Right, I'm going to make this. I'm going to design it. I'm going to do the graphics for it. Like, it's done. So like if it's something I've gone to a magic shop to put out, it's like I've literally gone, look, it's all done. Let's just go with it. So yeah, I'm going to carry on sort of like tinkering around with bits and bobs and see what happens, really.
Amazing. And where can people contact you? Let's say clubs are booking live lectures, which they are at the moment, for the future. What's the best place to reach you?
So Facebook is probably easy. I'm Kev Gregson on that, because I did have it as Kev G, but Facebook then said, this is not your real name. I had my account disabled for about a month, and had to send in my passport and stuff, which was a right pain. But you can also get in touch via Instagram. So I've got a couple of Instagram accounts. So I've got Mind Game Magic, and I've also got Magic Wedding UK. So predominantly when I do gigs, the majority of my work is weddings. So I've got a separate entity for wedding stuff. So I've also got the websites then, mindgamemagic.co.uk, and also magicwedding.co.uk, and then also the Rubik's Cube Magician. There's a contact form on that as well, so you'll be able to get in touch all those ways. So yeah,
lots of ways of getting hold of you, Kev. So if people want to lecture, if people want, can they get cube cards directly from you as well? Have you got cube cards that you can?
I don't actually hold any stock of the things that I've put out. So most of the stuff that I've put out through Saturn, they have the stock of it. There's some effects which are available worldwide. So cube cards and cube cards remit. I think the different iterations of cube cards, and I just mentioned now, if anybody's wondering why there's these different versions of cube cards, is that they utilize different stacks. Okay, so there's currently 3 sets of cards available, so effectively 3 different stacks that you could use one independently, or what I like to do, I just like to mix them all together, and that way when I'm performing, it's a little bit of a challenge for me. Okay, so I don't know what's going to come up, so it keeps me on my toes. So there's that, but then other stuff is just available directly from Saturn, and then the other bits and bobs that I've been working on for my lecture will just be available directly from me, but I've only got limited bits, so I'm just kind of like really keeping them for when I go and do lectures.
Got it. And obviously the big thing, I'll put it down there again, rubikscubemagician.co.uk.
Yeah,
brilliant stuff. Kev, it has been amazing having you on the channel. Thank you.
Thanks
so
for having me.
You're one of the good guys in magic, and long may you continue to create, because your stuff is always commercial and it is always awesome. So thank you for finding the time to come on the channel and chat with me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, no, thanks a lot, Craig. It's been great.
No problem. Now, guys, leave a comment down below. I'm sure Kev will see it. So if you want to leave a comment on this video, if you've got any questions about cubes or any of Kev's products, leave a comment down below. And don't forget to do me a favor, if you want to see more videos like this, like the video, subscribe to the channel. And I'm going to be back again tomorrow with another 3 videos. We'll have one up at 2, one up at 6, and one up at 9. So I'll see you again tomorrow. Thanks very much for watching. My name's Craig from Magic